1 year has passed since the reopening of the Kaesong Industrial Complex. What does Kaesong Industrial Complex mean to Korea's economy, and what tasks lie ahead? Korea is slated to implement the emissions trading system next year. What is this about, and why do we need this? And how will it affect Korea's economy? The technology that detects and controls wind-induced vibrations of skyscrapers. What is the core principle of this technology developed for the first time in Korea? We can see mobile broadcasting contents on high-definition TVs. How is the new service different from existing mirroring services? A U.S. news outlet has reported that North Korea is believed to be building a submarine capable of launching nuclear missiles. Is the North actually building a submarine with nuclear missile launchers that can become a threat to global security?
Hello, I'm Andrew Salmon and welcome to Bizline. Now, Kaesong is probably the most written about industrial site in Asia, and 2014 marks the 10th year of operations at this South Korean-run factory complex located inside North Korea. Now, Kaesong is far and away the most significant symbol of inter-Korean economic cooperation, but it does face political risk. For example, last year operations were temporarily halted amid inter-Korean tensions. So, in our report today, we'll take a look at the current status of Kaesong. We'll also look at its future potential, and we'll ask how important it is for the Korean Peninsula in terms of both economics and politics.
When the Kaesong Industrial Complex opened in 2004, combining South Korea's capital and technology with North Korea's labor force, it opened a new chapter of inter-Korean cooperation and exchanges.
공업지구 사업을 잠정 중단하며 그 전폐 여부를 검토할 것이다.
But in April of 2013, North Korea unprecedentedly and unilaterally withdrew its workers from the industrial park. After many complications, the complex reopened on September 16th last year. We will find out everything about the Kaesong Industrial Complex that has been striving to normalize its operations since it restarted a year ago. Hosan Ace, located in Gangdong-gu, Seoul, produces cooling and heating systems, door locks, LED and fluorescent lights. It is operating a factory in the Kaesong Industrial Complex rather than in China or Vietnam because of the various advantages the industrial park offers.
북한은 말이 통하고 또 한민족의 동질성도 있고 또 같이 일을 하면은 굉장히 열심히 하고 있습니다. 그래서 저희들이 또 단시간 안에 물류도 들어오기가 좋고 여러 가지 장점이 있습니다. 그래서
It has been 10 years since the industrial complex opened in Kaesong Hwanghae-pukdo province, and since it has achieved an astonishing outcome in terms of size and revenue, with its accumulated production totaling $2.3 billion and about 940,000 people visiting the place. Compared to the time when it first opened, the number of companies in the industrial zone has risen 8 times to 125 from 15, while the number of workers has surged about 9-fold from about 6,000 people. The minimum monthly wage of a North Korean worker is about $70.35, including various allowances and social insurance fees. It is about $150 on average. Such low labor costs and outstanding performance of the workers are helping to enhance South Korean firms' production efficiency. But the 160 days of operation halted last year has caused substantial damages to the companies in the industrial zone. Hosan Ace, whose production is handled by about 400 North Korean workers, also suffered huge damages from the 5 months of operations halting.
저희가 그 투자액만 한 430만 불입니다. 그리고 유무형으로 들어가는 돈, 뭐 거기에 운영비 이런 것까지 쳤을 때는 그래도 한 700~800만 불 되는데 이것을 그냥 문이 닫히면은 다 놓고 나오는 줄 알고 이제 그런 상황까지 갔었습니다.
But since then, the Kaesong Industrial Complex has shaken off the nightmare and is recovering rapidly. Its monthly production, which stood at an average of $40 million in 2012, reached $37.62 million, or about 82% of the previous level in June of 2014. Production had halved during the operation suspension, but it rebounded to $100.66 million in the first quarter of this year, recovering its previous performance levels. Some companies have normalized operations, but many places are still suffering from the cancellation of orders from buyers at home and abroad because of the operation halt. This is largely because of the lingering tensions on the Korean peninsula.
이번 몇 달의 그 중단 사태로 말미암아 상당히 그 신용도가 떨어졌어요. 항상 이 사람들이 우리한테 물건을 공급할 수 있다는 확신이 없는 거예요. 이제 그런 부분들이 지금 신뢰 회복, 신용도를 회복하는 게 굉장히 중요한 문제입니다. 이 언제 정상화되는 부분은 기업적 측면이 아닙니다. 남북 관계예요. 남북 관계가 좋아서 그런 여건들, 통행 문제나 이런 것이 풀리면 또 금방 정상화될 수가 있다는 부분이 있기 때문에 그 정상화는 남북 관계 같은 것이 상당히 영향을 미칠 것으로 우리가 볼 수 있겠습니다.
After growing through the after effects of the operation halt, the Kaesong Industrial Complex's biggest task needed for its second golden days is to achieve the developmental normalization. Issues like guaranteeing passage and communications, such as internet and mobile phones, and simplifying clearance processes must also be resolved.
이른바 이제 삼통 문제, 그러니까 통행, 통신, 통관 문제는 사실상 남북한이 개선하기로 합의를 하고 실제로 북한이 어느 정도 협조를 해서 이른바 그 통행과 관련해서는 전자 출입 체계가 이미 갖춰져 있고 또 시범 운용까지 했습니다. 근데 이제 당국 간의 회담을 통해서 본격적인 가동을 해야 되는데 남북 관계가 개선되지 않음으로 인해서 지금 계속 미뤄지고 있는 그런 상황이고요. 그리고 통신과 관련해서도 인터넷 연결이 합의가 되었는데 이것도 역시 남북 당국 간의 대화를 통해서 본격적인 가동 일정들 실무적 협의를 해야 되는데 하지를 못하고 있는 그런 상황입니다.
Globalization through ways such as securing export markets and attracting foreign firms is also a task the industrial zone has to gradually tackle. About 20 foreign companies, including German and Chinese firms, have already made inquiries about investment in the Kaesong Industrial Complex or visited the place. But there hasn't been any concrete accomplishment in globalizing the industrial complex. It is likely to take a substantial time as the two Koreas have different preconditions for globalization.
국제화가 되면은 환경이 달라질 것이고, 그래 되면은 개성단의 미래는 굉장히 밝아질 수가 있죠. 또 남북관계 좋아지고 해서 오이사 조치가 만약에 없어졌다, 철회가 된다면은 그때는 또 더 낙관적인 그런 하나의 전망을 할 수가 있어요. 그래서 우리가 개성단의 미래, 이것은 현재 기업의 수익적인 측면이 아니고 경제 외적 요인들, 남북 관계를 비롯한 여러 가지 제요건에서 결정되기 때문에 그거에 영향을 받을 것이다라고 생각할 수 있는 거죠.
Despite the obstacles the industrial zone still faces, the 125 companies aren't giving up on their hopes just yet. Revenue generated here is timid when compared to the entire Korean economy, but the Kaesong Industrial Complex has a significance and value beyond this.
지난해에 개성단이 폐쇄되었음에도 불구하고 입주기업들이 거의 한 개 기업도 떠나지 않고 그 개성단에서 남아서 계속 생산 활동을 하겠다고 그 의지를 보이는 것 자체가 개성단이 갖고 있는 자생력 또는 경쟁력을 충분히 보여주고 있는 거죠. 따라서 이런 그 정치적인 문제가 그 개성단을 발전을 가로막고 있는 정치 군사적인 문제가 해결된다면 개성단은 이른바 어떤 그 남북 경협의 상징일 뿐만 아니라 통일 경제의 초석이 될 수 있는 그런 잠재력을 갖고 있다고 할 수가 있죠.
The Kaesong Industrial Complex has more of a symbolic significance for inter-Korean economic cooperation rather than economic significance. The new economic model, combining South Korea's capital and North Korea's labor force, has experienced crises from time to time, but as it has done in the past 10 years, it is actively operating at this very moment.
The United Nations held its Climate Summit in New York City on September 23rd. Here in Korea, in January, the country is scheduled to institute an emissions trading system. Under this system, companies will be able to buy and sell their allocated emissions permits. But what would such a system look like here in Korea? What effect will this have on Korean industry? And above all, can such systems actually have any effect on overall climate change? These are some of the questions we have for our guest today. Is the Senior Climate Change and Energy Officer at the British Embassy in Seoul. He's also the author of a book, The Climate Recession. Kim Ji-sok, thank you for being on Bizline.
I thank you for having me.
Okay, let's start with the big picture question. Basically, what is an emissions trading scheme?
It's basically, originally it's called cap and trade. So you place a limit on how much you can emit.
Right.
And then, but instead of enforcing limit on every little plants or factories, you allow the factory to trade. So it's a flexibility mechanism. So the trading itself, it can be an option for people who want to
Emit more.
emit more but buy someone else's reduction. So it gives flexibility, but it's more on the cap. That's the kind of the juice of the core of the system.
The system,
Yes.
okay. But let's talk about both the cap and the trade. And let's look at who's done this before. And I understand Australia, the EU, various parts of the US, and a number of other nations have already instituted these kind of systems, exchanges and markets. But many countries, of course, haven't. So Korea is about to institute one. Where do you see Korea? Are you coming late to the party or coming early to the party?
Just to set the record straight, when you say EU, EU is made of 28 countries. So it's not just like a small number of countries, but a huge number of countries, like 45 countries. And in China, some people claim that they don't have a national scheme yet, but their provinces are as large as countries.
Yeah.
So California, for example, is the 8th largest economy in the world. So given the Korea's status as one of the top 20 economies, and its manufacturing capacity and institutional capacity, I think it's coming just about right on time. And I mean, the neighborhoods like China and Japan are not doing it on national level yet. So it looks like Korea is doing it early, but given its capacity and its wealth, it's actually coming just right about
Time's
time.
about right.
And
Okay.
but when it comes to science, whether are we, because we are not reducing emission fast enough. So in a way,
Fast enough by what standard or by
the
what metric?
scientists' advice to avoid big catastrophe in the future. So in that regard, Korea is coming in. I mean, nobody's really coming in early. Everyone is a little bit late.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I take your point, but is this something that Korea is implementing pretty much as an independent policy, or is this something that's been required to do as part of the Kyoto Protocol?
The Kyoto Protocol ended in 2012, so it was a reduction requirement on 38 the richest countries, and that ended in 2012. And there was a bit of an extension to Kyoto Protocol to
that's my
2020,
understanding. Yeah.
but not many people except the European Union has taken that on. So Korea is not really required. They don't have a legally binding international commitment, but they did declare in 2009 that they will set an example by reducing about minus 30% against business as usual scenario. So
A minus 30% reduction over what kind of time scale?
compared to 2005, reduce minus 30% against business as usual scenario to 2020.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Now, let's talk about a market that sells and buys emissions. What would you say are the best national sort of benchmarks for this kind of scheme?
It's hard to tell because California, for example, has a very healthy price. Having a good carbon price is very it's the essence of the scheme because it motivates.
A good price is high or low?
Just about right level. If it's too high, that's too burdensome for industries. If it's too low, then nobody's motivated to reduce emission. So we gotta find a right price. So the price is determined by the market. So and it's very much affected by what kind of cap you place.
Yeah.
So if you place a tight cap,
Yeah.
then the price is bound to increase. But if you place a loose cap, then the price it goes down really low.
So again, the market, the differential will be based on the cap, which will be set by the government.
Yes. When coming to the best carbon market, I can argue that the EU ETS, the European system, is quite good because
What's the ETS?
the emission trading system.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. So because Europeans have been running it for 9 years now, and it needs a bit of a reform. So nothing is perfect, and European scheme is not perfect. So they're looking into fixing it. But the fact that they've been running it for 9 years without, and it's still running, and many people think it's a good fixer-upper. So I think that's a longevity proven, and I think that can give EU a status as the best running scheme. It's also a very large scheme with over 11,000 participants.
These are corporate participants.
It's actually broken by different installations. So say Volkswagen, if they have 10 large boilers in different plants, and that's counted as 10.
Oh, it says by installation, not by company.
By installation, yes.
Got you. Okay. And you say this is the most successful. I mean, how do you judge the success of these kind of schemes or failure?
The European carbon market price has fallen considerably after the economic crisis in 2008. And some people see it as a failure. Oh, the price collapsed from about 25 euro to 5 euro. But that's the way it's supposed to operate in a way. Because when the economy is
will
bad,
fluctuate. Yeah.
if the industry are imposed to high carbon price, that's too much burden. So because economic crisis reduce energy consumption and delivered reduction, why impose heavy
high price,
high
right.
price
Okay.
on struggling companies?
But you said that the price is €5 for what? That's for an emissions trade of what exactly?
Per ton.
Per ton.
Ton CO2.
Got you. Okay.
Now it's about 7 ton. There's been a small fix that boosted the price a little bit.
Gotcha.
It's still a bit low.
Okay, so we've covered a little bit of how the European market is working and priced. What about Korea? Presumably there is already some emission cap regulation. How is that going to change with the advent of an emissions trading system?
Right. In 2012, the Ministry of the Korean government decided to implement something called energy and emission target management. So basically, each companies will negotiate a target for the next year's emission, and then year end deliver the emission. And so if you comply, then that's it. If you do not comply, you pay a small fine.
Okay.
The problem with the scheme is though it's such a short-term thing. You're negotiating target every year.
End of the okay.
So you cannot really make a decision on long-term investment based on the target you're receiving every year.
Gotcha.
So the emission trading scheme is a bit longer-term thing, and that's going to come in and that's going to replace the target management system almost completely. But some smaller companies will remain in the old system.
What sectors will be most affected by this?
I have to say most likely the steel companies. Because you make steel, you remove oxygen from iron ore using coal.
Yeah.
And that's a chemical reaction.
Yeah.
So that's pretty hard to replace.
Gotcha.
But at the same time, it means though, if they figure out how to do it without a huge carbon emission, then they can
Good
make
for everyone.
a lot of money. And so steel is a very useful resource.
Yeah. Once trading starts, we're speaking fairly big picture here, which way do you expect things to go? Will there be furious trading in the emissions, or are companies going to actually start thinking it's time for us to invest in much cleaner, longer-term energy management systems?
So that's really kind of depends on the corporate culture, I have to say.
Yeah.
So like, say, I mean, it's a bit of a different thing, but Toyota, for example, they developed hybrid Prius in 1997. The international oil price was $20 per barrel. And in the US, like 4 liters of gasoline was sold at $1. So it was quite a crazy idea,
At the time, yeah.
like doubling the mileage in 1997. But now it's the most brilliant idea. They're selling about 2 million hybrids per year.
Yeah.
So Some people will see it as really a signal to a very big transition, like moving away from coal, gas, and oil, which are vital for modern economy. And if some big company decide to invest in making a big transition, they'll win. But if they see it as a short-term thing to kind of
just manage,
comply and manage, then they will manage in the very beginning, probably spend less money, but suffer much larger consequences in the end.
Yeah. But do you think, again, speaking very, very big picture, that these kind of systems, once they're implemented over the next years, over the next decade or so, will actually make any inroads into global climate change?
Every action counts. And so Korea is emitting about 1.5% of the global emission, and the ETS covers about more than half of it. So that's about 0.8% of global emission. And it all depends on the cap. If you continue to if you have loose cap, then we might see a lot of trading, but doesn't lead to any reduction. So it all depends on how much of a cap they place. And in UK, the businesses are lobbying for setting a long-term target to get certainty. They want to know what kind of reduction paths companies has to be on.
Business want predictability.
Certainty.
Sure.
So if Korean companies start to interacting on that level, be more constructive and say, what's the long-term target we need to meet, and government responds to that and set a target, and run the trading system to give the flexibility. I think that can be the most cost-effective way to get to where we need to be.
Gotcha. And of course that creates problems for governments, does it not? Because governments don't want to pressure their own national industries.
It's difficult. It's kind of a disciplining I don't want to say it's kind of child disciplining, but like you want to nudge your partner, your important a member of the society in the right direction. So and that takes a bit of courage, I think.
Sure.
Because the change is difficult to achieve.
Sure.
But
in all areas.
I do hope we get a positive interaction between business and the government, so we can get to the place where we need to be, and that's for everyone's benefit, really, in the long run.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much for bringing to our attention some issues which I suppose very few people think about day to day, but which will indeed have an impact for our children and our grandchildren.
And actually us.
And even us.
Yeah, because as you get older, you get physically weaker, and the heat wave, if you experience
will
now,
affect us.
You can manage. But when you're 70, 80 years old, and it's very difficult to handle. So
we've already got one foot in the grave.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes. So,
thank you very much for giving your views and appearing on Bizline.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Great. We'll meet again.
Now you can stop the annoying spam calls and SMS messages that have been pestering you. The app of the week is Who, that provides information on spam calls based on the phone numbers of 22 million domestic companies and reporting by users. When you get a spam call, the name of the region where the caller is making the call will be displayed. With just a click, you can easily block the spam calls and messages. You can also unblock the number already registered as spam if necessary. With its function to detect spam calls, it marks the seriousness of spam and can block it in advance. Now you can accurately distinguish calls you don't want to get and have to get.
In a natural result of rising population densities, building heights are also rising. Skyscrapers, of course, are now common features in urban centres around the world. Now, one of the problems affecting skyscrapers is wind. When a high-altitude building is hit by high-speed winds, it actually sways from side to side, and this has obvious implications for skyscraper design, construction, and safe operation. So, a new technology which detects and controls wind-induced vibration is now coming online. How does it work? Let's take a look.
The height of a super tall building has become the symbol of economic might among rising economies. Countries and cities are in a contest to show they can do better in pushing up the limit in the skyline. The 828-meter or 2,722 feet tall Burj Khalifa in Dubai, Arab Emirates, ranks as the world's tallest man-made structure. It won't hold that record for long, as a skyscraper taller than 1,000 meters is expected to go up in Saudi Arabia by 2019. As important as the imposing designs is the safety standards of these buildings. The biggest downside to super tall buildings is that they can shake by the wind.
바람에 의해서 건물 또는 다리가 흔들리는 것을 풍진동이라고 얘기합니다. 근래 들어 바람 화중도 급속하게 증가하고 있고, 그에 비해 건물은 더 높고 가볍고 이렇게 지어지기 때문에 진동에 취약한 형태로 지어져서 풍진동대에 굉장히 큰 문제가 되고 있습니다.
Wind-induced vibrations can cause nausea and headaches, jeopardizing the health of residents in tall buildings. A Korean university has been working on effective technology to tame wind-induced vibrations. Wind speed picks up as we go higher above the surface. The taller the building, the more it becomes affected by wind shear because wind-induced vibrations are proportional to the square of wind velocity.
보통 저희가 가속도를 사람이 감지를 할 수가 있다고 얘기하는데요. 번지 점프를 할 때 느껴지는 가속도가 1G 정도 됩니다. 보통 민감한 사람들은 1G의 0.1%부터 느끼기 시작해서 1%의 가속도가 느껴지면 불쾌함을 느낍니다. 특히 거주하는 건물이 흔들린다고 느낄 때 사람들은 그 건물이 위험할 수도 있다, 불안하다라고 느낄 수 있기 때문에 특히 굉장히 고가의 초고층의 빌딩에는 그런 요구사항이 증가하고 있는 현실입니다.
Wind-resistant apparatuses are installed in high-rise buildings, with the types varying by 3 key features.
크게 보면 외부 동력을 필요로 하는 액티브 타입하고 그냥 자체 물리적인 법칙에 따라 에너지를 이렇게 솟아시킬 수 있는 패시브 타입 두 가지로 나눌 수 있습니다. 그 두 가지 특징이 이렇게 결합되어 있는 제품을 그 하이브리드 타입의 제진 장치라고 부르게 되고요. 국내에서는 이제 패시브 타입은 굉장히 그 보편적으로 이제 많이 사용하는 수준에까지 도달을 해 있습니다.
The typical passive control is called a tuned mass damper, a device mounted in a structure weighing 1% less than the building and moving in opposition to the resonance frequency oscillation of the structure to absorb unwanted vibrations. The 508-meter-tall landmark skyscraper Taipei 101 is fitted with the world's largest tuned mass damper at 660 tons, with the steel pendulum sways offsetting movements by strong gusts by 40%. Active control has been getting greater attention because of its efficiency in mitigating vibrations while taking less space.
질량체의 관성력을 좀 더 효율적으로 발생시키기 위해서 강제적으로 서버 모터를 둡니다. 그러니까 서버 모터로 강력하게 매스를 이동시켜주면서 그 구조물의 진동을 제어할 수 있는 힘을 이제 증폭시켜주게 되는데, 강제로 힘을 주다 보니까 굉장히 안정적인 어떤 알고리즘에 의해서 이 AMD의 서버 모터를 움직여줘야 되는데, 그러기 위해서 그 컨트롤러가 굉장히 안정적으로 작동할 필요가 있고요. 시스템은 복잡해지는데 그 대신 큰 재력을 얻을 수 있으니까 그 공간 효율적인 면에서는 굉장히 유리한 측면이 좀 있습니다.
The active mass damper can be activated after accurate analysis of vibrations in the structure to computerize the exact direction of mass movement to best control the vibrations. A research team developed the controller, the key element in the active mass damper, and helped reduce reliance on foreign patented technology on vibration control. A tall retail building in Seoul, Technomark, raised the safety alarm after it shook heavily in 2011. Locally developed vibration technology was installed to solve the problem.
테크노마트에 발생했던 진동은 수직 방향으로 흔들리는 진동 사고였습니다. 건물주가 요구는 수직 방향으로 흔들림을 막아달라였지만 그 건물의 질량을 올리는 동시에 그 질량체를 수평으로도 이용해서
극한의 태풍에도 건물이 또 안전하면 좋겠다라는 취지로 수직과 수평을 동시에 제어할 수 있는 장치로 저희가 세계 최초로 개발하여 적용했습니다.
The hybrid type that incorporates the best features of TMD and AMD is the first case in the commercialization of simultaneous horizontal and vertical mass dampers.
연직 진동을 잡을 수 있는 TMD와 함께 풍진동도 잡을 수 있는 그 어떤 장치로 한번 설계를 해보자. 그렇게 해서 하이브리드 타입으로 이제 설계가 시작이 됐고요. 그 전 세계적으로 보면 풍진동과 함께 바닥판에 그 연직 진동이 동시에 발생하는 경우가 워낙 드물다 보니까 세계적으로도 이 기술이 뭐 어디 특허가 나 있고 보편화돼 있고 이런 상태가 아니었습니다. 그래서 저희가 이 문제를 풀면서 좀 새로운 어떤 디자인을 만들어냈고 그게 이제 특허로도 연결이 돼서 어떻게 보면 세계 최초의 어떤 도안을 이제 만들어내게 된 거죠.
Japan is currently a front-runner in wind-induced vibration control technology. The latest innovation from Korea has not only been warmly welcomed at home, but has drawn interest from abroad.
일본의 기술이 세계 최고라고 할 수 있고요. 그래서 우리가 이번에 개발한 장치는 일본의 기술을 따라간다고 할 수 있겠습니다. 국내 시장은 현재 인천공항 관제탑에 적용할 예정에 있고요. 국내도 이제 초고층 건물 공사가 활발하게 진행되면 더 수요가 더 증가할 것으로 예상을 합니다. 해외 시장은 초고층이 중국과 중동 시장을 중심으로 폭발적으로 건설되고 있기 때문에 거기에 대한 수요가 많을 것으로 예상돼서 근본 실적을 바탕으로 해외 시장에도 진출할 수 있을 것이라고 생각합니다.
High-rise buildings have become common in big cities. Vibration control systems are essential to ensuring safety against earthquakes, wind, and other external shocks. The latest technological breakthrough will likely help brandish Korea's technological prowess on the skyline.
You may already be familiar with the term mirroring technology. If you're not, it's got nothing to do with putting on your makeup. It's all about beaming the content from your smartphone to a larger screen like a computer or TV. And now this technology is moving even further ahead. It's now feasible to watch full high-quality mobile broadcasting content in high definition on your TV. And all you need to do it with is this USB-like device.
Watching television and playing games on the smartphone has become an everyday sight. Now there are growing needs for people wanting to enjoy what they're watching on their smartphones on a larger screen. This has definitely become possible thanks to the small wireless display adapter. Park Se-gyu lives alone in Seoul. He doesn't stay home that long, so he hasn't subscribed to any cable television services. Nonetheless, he watches various TV channels and video on demand at home after work. He's able to do this thanks to a small over-the-top device connected to the television. Through this technology, TV channels are delivered through the internet environment rather than through cable or terrestrial antennas.
집에 인터넷만 되는 환경이면 이제 TV 뒤에 꽂아서 이제 인터넷 연결로 해서 그 케이블 TV에서 하는 방송들을 다 볼 수 있더라고요. 그래서 구매하게 됐습니다.
Since last year, when Google introduced Chromecast, there has been a slew of release of OTT devices, bringing down a wall between the smartphone and television. CJ Hello Vision, that has recently began OTT services with its TVing, also released OTT device called TVing Stick. By plugging in the device into the HDMI slot in the television, people can view 50,000 VODs and 150 cable channels in full high-definition quality picture.
최근에 방송을 소비하는 시청자들의 니즈가 굉장히 많이 바뀌고 있다고 생각을 하고 있습니다. 저희가 파악해본 바로는 실시간에서 VOD로 많이 이동하고 있고 이와 같은 그 고객들의 니즈가 변화하고 있는데요. 기존의 그 방송 플랫폼들이 그런 니즈를 완벽하게 맞추고 있지 못하기 때문에 이런 부분들에 대해서 고객들의 니즈가 있고 이에 맞춰서 시장에 많은 제품들이 출시되고 있다고 보고 있습니다.
The The smartphone is linked to the television via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth when the TVing stick is plugged into the television. Because the smartphone doesn't take the mirroring method to display its image as is on the TV monitor, but uses a casting method by retrieving videos online from storage, viewers can use a smartphone for another task while watching television.
일단 보통 이제 캐스팅 방식에서 가장 장점으로 보는 부분은 멀티태스킹을 꼽을 수 있을 것 같고요. 그다음에 뭐 미러링 방식이 화면이 계속 켜져 있어야 되는 부분이기 때문에 이에 따른 뭐 배터리 소모라든지 네트워크 소모 이런 부분에서는 캐스팅 방식의 장점이 있다고 볼 수 있습니다.
It also offers the mirroring method so viewers can watch terrestrial channels connecting to DMB, play a game, or view pictures on a smartphone.
일단 좋은 점은 기존에 작은 화면으로 봤던 걸 큰 화면으로 볼 수 있다는 게 가장 큰 것 같고요. 그 채널 영상들을 실시간 TV처럼 볼 수 있는 상품을 가입을 해놨고요. 그게 지금 2,900원입니다. 근데 그 케이블 TV는 제가 알아봤을 때도 거의 최소한 10,000원 이상은 지불을 해야지 월 그래야 되는 거기 때문에 사실 가격적인 측면에서도 굉장히 세이브 된다라고 생각이 듭니다.
With an increase in number of services available through the smartphone, users are seeking bigger screens to fully enjoy them, and thus needs for the so-called end screen is on the rise.
일단 본인이 이렇게 모바일 기기를 통해서 보는 콘텐츠를 TV라든가 큰 화면, 대화면으로 보고자 하는 니즈는 일단 근본적으로 있다고 봐야 되고요. 최근에는 특히 콘텐츠들이 자유롭게 이동할 수 있는 압축, 전송 기술, 그리고 콘텐츠 사업자들이 적극적으로 뛰어들면서 콘텐츠가 이제 스크린 사이를 자유롭게 이동할 수 있게 된 그런 부분이 좀 풀리면서 좀 더 이렇게 확산되고 있지 않나 그렇게 봐야 될 것 같습니다.
End screen is not limited to TV broadcasts. Nowadays, when people get into the driver's seat, the first thing that he or she does is to take out one's smartphone. Now, it is to get the traffic information from a navigation application installed on the smartphone. However, the smartphone screen is smaller than the usual navigation monitor and thus difficult to mount on a cradle. So wouldn't it be better to display what's on the smartphone on the navigation screen installed in the car? That is possible through connecting a wireless adapter. A mirroring application on the smartphone can mirror its image on the screen in the car's navigation monitor with a dongle connected together through wireless communications. It is a step forward from existing automobile mirroring technology because it offers two-way control and picture-in-picture functions.
기존 유무선 미러링 서비스는 화면만 전송하든가 아니면 일부 기능을 사용하는 좀 제약사항들이 있습니다. 하지만 저희 카링크 서비스는 화면을 다 전송할 뿐만 아니라 내비게이션에서 스마트폰을 조작하는 기능도 제공을 하고 있고요. 스마트폰의 모든 기능을 제약 없이 사용할 수 있는 장점이 있습니다. 그 기존의 이제 무선 미러링 서비스 같은 경우에는 그 화면 전송 속도가 한 10프레임 정도로 좀 동영상 서비스를 하기에는 좀 미흡한 점들이 있습니다. 하지만 저희 카링크 서비스는 15프레임으로 영상을 전송하기 때문에 고화질 동영상을 끊김없이 선명하게 시청하실 수가 있습니다.
A two-way control is possible, so a smartphone can be controlled by touching the navigation screen. The navigation screen can be split into two as well, one for navigation map and another for the smartphone. The driver can read the map and check text messages at the same time.
운전 중에 전화나 문자가 왔을 때 스마트폰으로 바로 확인하지 않고 내비게이션으로 바로 볼 수 있어서 편리한 것 같아요.
Automakers are releasing cars that carry mirroring technology here in Korea. At IFA 2014, which is the world's leading trade show for consumer electronics and home appliances, people showed keen interest on mirroring technology applied in automobiles, indicating that it is essential in making a smart car.
이제 소비자는 항상 이제 편하고 이제 간단한 걸 원하시기 때문에 기술의 발전이 뭐 그런 식으로 계속 갈 거고요. 뭐 기존에 이제 미래를 항상 꿈꾸면 어디든 뭐 스크린이 펼쳐지고 내에 대한 맞춤 서비스가 제공되고 이런 걸 다 떠올리시는데 머지않아 그런 서비스들이 상용화될 거라고 생각을 합니다.
Enjoying smartphone services on a larger screen. End-screen service has become more convenient and smarter and will bring a large wave of changes to our everyday activities.
Recent news reports allege that Pyongyang is working on a missile-capable submarine. If true, this would grant North Korea a very mobile, stealthy platform from which to launch its ballistic missiles. It would also suggest the North Korean regime has mastered the kind of very high technologies required for this kind of ultra-sophisticated weapons system. So, how accurate are these reports? And if accurate, what are the implications?
In June, North Korea disclosed pictures of its leader Kim Jong-un getting on board a submarine, inspecting inside and even trying out the periscope.
경의하는 최고 사령관 김정은 동지께서는 잠수함 748호의 내부 격실들을 돌아보시고 직접 실동 훈련을 승선 지도하시었습니다.
North Korea took a rare step of showing off the interior of its most powerful vessel. U.S. political and defense webzine Washington Free Beacon recently raised alarm about an underwater nuclear threat from North Korea, claiming a missile launch tube was observed from a North Korean submarine by U.S. intelligence agencies.
Vertical launching system is a system to fire missiles on the moving platforms such as ships or submarines. This system has a number of cells, and this cell holds missiles in the cell. And the missiles ignite in the cell or expelled from the cell and ignites. So this system should resist high temperature and high pressure. And if this system is loaded to the submarine, this becomes submarine launch ballistic missile system.
The report said North Korea already owns ballistic missiles adapted to fit the launch platform on modified or refurbished Russian-designed submarines, capable of carrying long-range cruise missiles with a range of up to 2,500 miles. If the report is true, North Korea can fire missiles from underwater that can reach U.S. territories.
Using this technology, they can reach up to United States continent up to Alaska, or they can attack United States military base in Guam or Philippines. Even though all the missile systems or launching systems are destroyed in their own land, they may have hidden missile capability in the submarine, and the missiles can be hidden in the submarine. So it can be used for a second strike for retaliation.
North Korea's Navy force includes around 70 submarines, the largest fleet in the region. The threat amplifies if North Korea possesses a capacity to fire nuclear bombs from underwater.
잠수함 같은 경우에는 물 밑에서 어디에 있는지 모르기 때문에 조기 탐지가 어렵고, 또 그런 측면에서 그냥 탄도미사일의 지상에 있는 탄도미사일 같은 경우는 보이기 때문에 유격이라든지 이런 대강 시간을 맞출 수가 있지만, 잠수함 같은 경우에는 조기 탐지가 어렵기 때문에 그렇게 할 수 없다라는 측면에서 그 북한의 위협에 더 취약해진 안보 환경이 구성이 됐다라고 볼 수가 있고요.
Missile threat from maverick North Korea won't be limited to a few immediate enemy countries like South Korea and the United States, because it is hard to know ahead where submarines are headed.
북한의 미사일을 장거리 미사일, 중거리 미사일 이야기를 했을 때는 주로 이제 몇몇 국가들에게 위협이 되는 국가들에게만 위협적이었었는데, 잠수함이라는 것은 언제 어디를 어떻게 갈지 모르는 거죠. 그러면은 결국에는 아태 지역 전 권역에 굉장히 불안 요인이 높아졌다라고 볼 수가 있고.
Only 6 military powers like the US, Russia, and China own submarine-based ballistic missile technology. How was North Korea capable of obtaining such sophisticated technology? Some experts suspect North Korea may have used the past 20 years to reverse engineer or copy a version of Russia's decommissioned submarines.
부소련 해체되는 과정 속에서 많은 이제 그 무기들이 외국으로 팔려 나가고, 또 그때 당시에 러시아에서는 팔 수밖에 없는 그런 입장이었는데요. 그때 당시에 북한은 소련제 소위 말하는 그 골프급이라고 얘기를 하는데요. 그게 3,000톤급 잠수함입니다. 그 잠수함을 포함을 해서 전체적으로 한 20여 대 정도를 구소련으로부터 도입을 했거든요. 생각을 해보면 3,000톤급 골프급에 해당되는 것을 러시아로부터 수입해 왔으니까 이것을 역설계할 수 있지 않겠느냐라고 볼 수 있는 거죠.
North Korea also operates a troupe of computer hacking experts who can break into classified technologies in the world.
세계 3위 정도라고 하는데 그런 해커 기술을 이용해서 그런 그 유사한 관련된 지식을 해킹을 통해서 또 기술을 또 습득하는 방법이 있고요. 그 다음에 부품과 관련해서는 요즘에는 사실상 이중 용도 품목이 굉장히 많죠. 그래서 그러한 이중 용도 품목 중에 아직까지도 통제 리스트에 있지 않으면서도 사용될 수 있는, 전환될 수 있는 그런 품목들을 유사한 기능을 할 수 있는 거를 만약 수입을 한다면은 꼭 불가능한 거는 아니라고 봅니다.
Even if North Korea has obtained technology to install ballistic missile delivery platforms in submarines through clandestine means, it remains questionable whether it can actually put it into military practice.
Even though they have this kind of submarine launched ballistic missile system, having this system and operating this system is quite different. To operate this system, you should have large-scale submarines over 3,000 tons.
The submarine Kim Jong-un had been in for a proud showcase in June was an 1,800-ton Romeo class. Whether North Korea owns a 3,000-ton submarine capable of carrying ballistic missiles is yet to be confirmed. But its unusually frequent short-range missile and artillery test firings this year and Kim Jong-un's repeated visits to military sites cannot be disregarded.
북한이 올해 아마 모든 종류의 무수단급 이상을 빼고 노동 미사일 이르기까지 단거리 미사일부터 그 미사일까지 모든 종류의 미사일을 다 시험 발사했고요. 예년에 비해서 한 10배 정도 더 높을 정도로 미사일을 발사를 했고 시험 발사했고 성능을 개량하고 그러고 있습니다. 그래서 우리는 좀 더 높은 경계심을 가지고 북한의 새로운 무기 체계의 배치라든지 시험이라든지 그런 것들을 예의주시해서 거기에 대한 대비를 철저히 해 나가야 될 것으로 생각합니다.
Kim Jong-un appears to be accelerating a weaponization process based on the nuclear infrastructure left by his father Kim Jong-il and grandfather Kim Il-sung. The international community won't tolerate North Korea's moves to arm submarines with atomic bombs and pose a threat to the security of the world.
And that's all we have time for on Bizline this week. But do join us again next week. We'll be discussing the outcome of President Park's visit to Canada and to the US. And meanwhile, closer to home, more and more Chinese couples are choosing to hold their weddings here in Korea. Why so? We'll find out. We'll also be asking what strategies Korean wedding planners are using to seize a bigger chunk of this market, a market which is alleged to be worth about 100 trillion won or $100 billion. So, do join us again next week, but that's all for now. I'm Andrew Salmon. This was Bizline. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.